Welcome back to Friday Football Fever. Doug Fernandes joins me in studio, and we had some good games to talk about here, Fern. You know, I know you were out at the Sarasota-Riverview game, a classic in terms of high school rivalries, especially here locally. A game once known as the Turkey Bowl because it used to be played during the Thanksgiving weekend, but now not on the Thanksgiving weekend, and definitely a big game today. Comcast Sports South was there. Kind of rewind time for us and tell us what was it like, what was the crowd like?
Well, the crowd on the Riverview side was fantastic. I mean, these tickets were on sale since Monday. On the Sarasota side of the field, there were pockets of empty seats. I was a little surprised that maybe the Sailors didn't come out, but when you look at both teams, Riverview is 5-3, not making the playoffs. Sarasota is 1-7, not making the playoffs. I mean, they're in jeopardy of having their worst record in the last 10 years when they went 0-10 under Mike Hobby. But a typical performance for Sarasota. Gained over 200 yards rushing, had more first downs than Riverview, really moved the ball effectively, could not do enough of it when they had it. And John Evans, what can you say about him? 242 yards, 26 carries, scored 3 touchdowns, all on 35 yards or longer. So you take away those runs, and the Sailors are right in this game. Rams had 2 touchdowns called back on penalties, 2 missed field goals. So maybe it shouldn't have been as close as it was. But once again, Sarasota goes down to defeat.
And you talk about the Evans kid. I mean, 3 touchdowns. I mean, he is second in the area in terms of rushing at over 1,168 yards. 12 touchdowns. You add 3 on to that. Now he's at 15. The only one that tops him is Mike Bellamy, and we'll get to him in a second with that Port Charlotte game. But you talk about a classic here. They say it was over 6,000 people in attendance there to see a high school football game. That's what they said. But you're not going with that.
I don't know who this amorphous they is. I mean, I was there. Maybe if all the seats are filled up, we have 7,000, but there were definitely pockets of empty seats, like I said. Traffic was a bear. Hopefully Riverview will sort of increase the parking next year so we won't have this gridlock that we had for about an hour. But once again, Sarasota, Desmond Hurley, 126 yards. His brother Sean Hurley rushed for 108 yards. 2 guys over 100 yards rushing. So you figure maybe with that they'll get more production. Sarasota just didn't do enough with the possessions that they had.
Well, let's talk about really quick, too, the Port Charlotte game, another big rivalry, a long-time rivalry, but down to the south. And we talk about the number 1 man, Mike Bellamy. If we can roll some of the highlights of him, he had another spectacular game down there. He leads the area, 1,357 yards, 19 touchdowns, and here is some of what he did tonight. Unbelievable game for him, and here you're looking at a Charlotte team that's already won their district there. So another big game, too, Southeast. Southeast played Bayshore, and we know if they got the victory, they would also win the 3A10 district title. Up big on Bayshore. Bayshore came back to make it a 7-point game, but Southeast prevails to win the 3A title. Playoff games are coming up, Fern. Any real quick thoughts before we get out of here?
I don't know. Next week the season ends up. You got Sarasota playing Charlotte. You got Riverview playing Southeast. So both those schools want to end up. I'm just going with the big 3: Charlotte, Venice, and Manatee. Whatever they do.
All right, you heard him right there. As he said, the season will wrap up, the regular season next week. He and I will be back once again. That's our time. Thanks for watching.